The topic of my presentation is a case study. It's 3 front-end challenges building responsive MTV site. So a little bit about me. My name is Didzis Avotins. I'm a senior front-end developer working at Wunderkraut, Latvia. I'm located in Valmiera, Latvia. I started working with Drupal in 2011. That was at the time I joined the company that was prior to Wunderkraut. It was called Nara. And yeah, you can find me as Avits LV on GitHub, LinkedIn, Drupal. And yeah, so about the project. About the MTV UK project. The project background. So the client is Viacom International Media Networks, Wunderkraut, or to be precise, Wunderkraut, which is a branch of, as it is called in the United Kingdom, started to work with Viacom International Media Networks at the start of 2014. Viacom International Media Networks is a division of Viacom, which is an American global mass media company. The network oversees the production, broadcasting, and promotion of such brands as MTV, BET, International, Comedy Central, Viva, Nickelodeon, and VH1, and others. We started to work with this client by building a couple of fully responsive sites. We built a fully responsive site for Comedy Central at the start of 2014. We worked with BET and we transformed Paramount Hungary as well. So these sites were as a benchmark for our partnership, and we continued with a project, and the project then was called Viacom Platform Program. So previously they had a Drupal infrastructure. They had a shared backend architecture which consisted of content repository, information architecture, modules, configuration and features, multiple services, and other integrations there. So I'll dig into the front-end approach that was previously straight away. So as you understand, the media network oversees a couple of multiple brands, and if they had a Drupal front-end architecture, a theme architecture, theme structure, that they had multiple base themes for example, MTV, Comedy Central, or any other brand. And for these base themes, they had sub-themes, and therefore there were multiple sub-themes for each brand. For example, for MTV, as you can see, there was MTV UK, MTV Russia, and for example, MTV Israel and some others, just as an example. So, as you can see here, if something was needed region-specific only, then it had to be overridden, basically, from the base theme. For example, templates, CSS styles, and previous architecture was so that it wasn't fully responsive. They had actually a device-specific site. As you can see here, for each of these sites, they had mobile, tablet, and desktop experiences, and they had a separate sub-themes for sub-theme directories that were kind of specifying the CSS properties and templates and panels, layouts, and everything for these specific devices. So this was kind of a previous approach before well, fully responsive sites were introduced actually. So you can see probably the issues here. I mean, these are just the two brands with their couple of sub-themes, and if you take into consideration the maintenance and development cost that is involved in maintaining all of these environments, they are huge. Basically, you would have to kind of maintain the quality of all of these sites, and for all, like for example, take into consideration one element, for example, video player. So you have to maintain basically 3 video players in these cases. And if we think about, if we write some style for the whole brand in the base theme, then we have to, and for example, MTV Russia considers that they need to display a little bit different the video player. They override the base theme, the base styles, and basically, if you want to upgrade the base styles, you will break the MTV Russia's video player. And these kind of issues were full in this kind of structure. So we had to introduce a new theme structure. First of all, there should be only single base theme. This was thought as a single repository that would contain all of the necessary, so to eliminate the kind of complexity and the diversification of the approaches, because the backend approach is single, there's single information architecture, etc. So there should be single base theme. There should be template sharing and override mechanism. That is, of course, provided with single sub-theme, base theme relationship. So this is a new concept we introduced, white label sub-theme. Based on the theme, there could be many different brands, so there should be a possibility to create a new family of styles, which would be like a new brand, and you had to have some kind of starter kit for that. And we thought that developing a separate white label sub-theme which contained all of the component styles, that would be the default styles, would be a great starting point for that. And it should be possible to create completely new look and feel theme based on this white label sub-theme. So it should be really minimalistic. And the biggest and the trickiest part of the theme structure would be forking brand level styles to create new ones. We use SAS CSS extension language for writing styles and compiled them with Compass framework, and we had to find structure that would not allow us to override styles, but instead kind of fork existing styles, or kind of include already existing components into our sub-theme, into rendering our sub-theme as we want it. So let's take a look how it's actually done. So here's this theme structure. So this is the root of the theme. So here we have a common directory, Viacom, MTV, Comedy Central. This is an example at the moment. Common would be the base theme. Viacom should be the sub-theme, which is the white label one, and MTV should contain a group of MTV sub-themes, and Comedy Central a group of Comedy Central sub-themes. As I said, there could be multiple region-specific themes as well there. And there could be, of course, any other brand here in the future. Let's take a look into this common directory, which is the base theme. So it contains the usual suspects there, includes templates, template PHP. We have panels layouts, custom display suite layouts, libraries, which is the directory that contains libraries which are managed via Bower Package Manager. For example, we put in there HTML5 shiv, normalize, or formalize, or that kind of stuff. So there could be JavaScript libraries, could be some CSS libraries or SAS libraries. And this is just a continuation of the same directory. Here we have JavaScript fonts and images. In fonts, we use icon fonts throughout the site for all of the kind of arrows and all of the other icons. And here, as you can see, this is the interesting part. And here we have starter kit, which is a ready to go sub-theme. And here we have a SAS folder. Let's take a look into this SAS folder, which contains the styles. So here we have a top level of the SAS directory in the base theme. Here again we have the Viacom, which is actually the white label. We didn't want it to call white label. Then we have MTV and Comedy Central. Let's take a look into MTV. So here is something, the division is something familiar to kind of the SMAX framework, which is the CSS division framework. And here we have a settings file which contains variables, breakpoint variables, all that stuff. Base contains base CSS like fonts and kind of the generic styles of the HTML elements. Here we have the most important directory called components, which is actually a really large one, and I will talk about components a little later on. Here we have layouts, which contains the layout styles like panels layout styles, and some helpers like mixins. And so this is the base theme. As you can see here, in the base theme, the base theme itself is not kind of compilable. You can't compile it with Compass itself. So it just contains the SAS files there. And so what's going on? So how do we compile these sub-theme SAS? If we take a look at the / not the base theme, but the MTV sub-theme, there is a Ruby configuration file which includes this important code. So import line of code, and it says that you have to import all of the base themes, the SAS folders, directories. So they are accessible in this style.css, and that's actually the only file that resides in the sub-theme. And what is going on here, it just references whatever styles are needed for the sub-theme to work. So if we take a look, this is the MTV UK sub-theme, and we include some fonts. This is just an excerpt of the whole import list. It's actually really large, but it's actually the single configuration file for the SAS. So what you can do here is actually quite awesome. You can import, for example, some white label component, or you can import video player component, which is kind of using, again, versioning, not overriding styles for like components, but if, for example, you don't like Vim Video Player Alpha, you can create a new one, Vim Video Player Beta, and then include that one and configure that one. So that's how we are managing the styles in our new theme structure. if we look at the resume here, so we have in the base theme for the styles, we have these brands, and then for the sub-themes from other places, they just reference the necessary styles and renders them into their CSS files, and that's actually included into the page. Okay, so the second challenge, that was the first challenge to understand that to implement this new theme structure. The second challenge is panels grid system implementation. To understand the why kind of behind the grid system, the panels grid system, we should actually take a step back and review the MTV UK project goals. So the first goal was the possibility to publish iterations of MTV site in other countries. The second, less maintenance and lower development costs. From front-end perspective, we already take a look at this, and there are, as you saw, improvements that could be done there in this theme structure. And so this increased ad revenue, this is the business critical goal. The goal that can be achieved by serving more ads and increasing page view. So again, we have to think in terms of how to increase, for example, page view. The increase of page view can be achieved by developing a good performance mobile first site, focusing on content, focusing of reducing UX complexity, and providing necessary social media integrations, for example. And but how does this kind of fits into the whole thing? So another of the project goal was to allow site builders to build actual pages. There was a panel pages. So site builder is not a content editor. He's someone with some Drupal skills, but someone who thinks about content placement first and page layout as a whole. And so in combination, these two are very challenging, as you can imagine. On one hand, you should serve well-placed ad slots, and but on the other hand, you should allow page builder to build out the layouts. So there should be flexibility, and so we had to come up with a grid that would support MPU ads. How to do that actually? So the idea was that we introduced this column approach. For example, for mobile, there is a single column. For tablet, there's 2 columns. For desktop, there will be 3 columns, and for large desktop, there will be 4 columns. What does it mean? It means that each column supports one MPU ad, which is the 300 or 250 pixels wide, and that's just the most common one. And this system could, as you can see, it stretches out so that there is space for these 2 columns, 3 columns, and 4 columns. And there is actually a way to insert kind of middle page banners as well in the grid. So so this looks good kind of on a paper, but how to actually implement that for panels and to be actually quite to make it easy for the site builder. So this grid would be actually based on the MPU ad size. It would be built around that. So we worked on the panel grid system. We called it WinGrid, which is the Viacom International Media Network. which consisted of a panel layout. It included consisted of panels CTools styles plugin and a patch for panels module. That doesn't sound very kind of modular and such a good approach, but the gains in the easy to use part were too big to discredit this approach. And from the front end, we used the Singularity JS grid system, and we used pre-generated site builder CSS4 preview that is meant for the editor that is in the panels view. And there, as you saw previously in the theme, there is a layout SAS grid in base theme for site users. So that's actually what the end users see. So let's stop this for a second. Make it full screen. There's a small demo I performed on my local machine and recorded that. So here's an example. As you can see, there are 1 and 2 components. Actually, those are listings. And as you can see, they are one above the other. Here, if we look at that specific panel page, it's a special panel layout called Vim Grid, which is chosen. And there are actually only 2 panel layouts that are allowed in the site. There is the site layout and Vim Grid layout. And if we go to the edit capabilities of the content for the variant, as you can see here, these components are just panel panes. And as you can see there, I clicked on a region and chose style, which is the Vim region grid. It's already chosen there, but that's actually the panels plugin that was written. And let's continue here. Yeah, so you can, by default, it's chosen to no style. We chose Vim region grid. And here we can choose. We can choose for tablet viewport how many columns that region would take. For desktop the same, and for large desktop the same. So here we choose for desktop 2 columns, for large desktop 3 columns. So there's 1 spare column on the right. And do the same for the other component, which is 1 column there and 1 column there. Save. And if we update the panels page, then as you can see already in the editor for the site builder, we do a preview, and it actually has the same grid styles. So here we chose for the tablet, when mobile we chose full width, also 2 columns. And for the desktop, as you can see, there's 3 columns and 2 columns and 1 column. And the same for large desktop. And for large desktop, it's 3 columns and 1 column. And so if we refresh the page, then it looks like this. There's functionality is there. Okay, so that was about the panels grid. Third challenge was the component approach. So we thought of this abstract as component. What is a component? So it's any element or group of elements with which is divided from the other part of the site with a specific CSS class. And it could be HTML element, a group of HTML elements. It could be a panel pane or panel region. So component in Drupal terms, one component can consist of content, module, a PHP logic, a base template, and JavaScript, and that is kind of in the module, the PHP logic base template. And the second part would be in the front end, which would consist of CSS properties, and template overrides if necessary. So the ultimate goal for any component was that the placement, it should be context independent, and if we take into account our grid system, then in any placing it into any region with any kind of column count, it should look good and must look good, and the page does not look broken, and it should be context aware. That means it should be aware of where the actual component is. And sorry. Here's a quick example for the video component. I'll pause right here as well. So this is the mobile viewport, and as you can see, the mobile navigation slide from the left, and that's all is again considered as a component. So let's open some of video. I think we should be getting some sound, yeah. And so first of all, now this will demonstrate the video player, or actually this is the video player playlist that is placed in full width, but it actually kind of is into these 1, 2, 3, or 4 columns into this grid. And as you can see, it transforms through. This is the mobile experience, so the videos are placed one above another in this list. And then if we scale up to, for example, this is a portrait of a popular tablet. Then we have a little bit different experience for the video list, and for desktop, something familiar already from, for example, YouTube or something. So there's a scroll bar, and yeah. So this, for example, this element as a whole is considered as a component, and that's actually there's in the SAS folder there are. In components folder there are styles as a component. This is called Vim video player, for example. Second example is a listing. We already saw some listings, but here you can see the preview of how does it work if in the desktop we place this one listing only in one column. So the component is aware of the context that it's in in this one column, and for the large desktop it's put in one column. And now you will see that stop thing. Okay, yeah, as you can see, for other viewports it's just as an example put into 3, 2 columns, and etc. So this is what I mean by context awareness for the component. Let's see what's there. So just a quick list of the MTV UK components, what we used. Some mobile navigation as I shown, Vim grid, that's our again considered component, listing, video player, gallery, embedded content, whether it's a Instagram or Twitter embeds. We have this functionality of lazy loaded and responsive advertisement. Yeah, there are for single ad slots we load different ad sizes, for example, for mobile, tablet, and desktop, and this gives us this nice configuration of playing around with the page layout there. For example, search overlay, and in total we have like 23 components. that's it about the panels grid, and let's put it all together. A little bit about the project. So this was the Viacom platform program, and the MTV UK site was just the first site that was actually launched under this Viacom platform program. It started in September 2014. It consisted of Wunderkraut plus Viacom International Media Network development team, which was in London, and there were a couple of guys there, a couple of guys from Wunderkraut. We used Scrum framework. Our team consisted of project owner, which was a really dedicated project owner, not dedicated, it was a really specifically for this Viacom platform program. So his daily duties consisted only to be as a PO for this project. We were 2 front-end developers and 2 to 4 back-end developers, because developers were kind of added to the team, and if something was needed to done, and if we could kind of add some developers into the team to gain some speed for the project. And first we developed this white label theme, and that meant that all of the base components like gallery, video player, and article pages was ready from white label theme point of view. So the module code was ready. It only needed the new theme over it. So we worked on the white label theme as from UX perspective. It would be the kind of the best we can actually, but kind of, yeah, what we can achieve. And then we introduced the MTV UK brand over based on the white label theme. We actually cloned the white label theme and worked on the MTV UK styles. And we relaunched the site in April 2015, so it's a couple of months old. So developer locations from Wunderkraut and Wunderkraut. The project itself was the MTV and Viacom headquarters were in London. I'm living in Valmiera, Latvia, and we had 2 backend developers from Helsinki, Finland as well. So it was we traveled a couple of times to London, meet the client, some important plannings when there was some important plannings, but mostly just remote work, daily stand-ups, sprint retrospectives, and basically daily improvements if there was such, and if there was some blockers and solving of those, and basically that's about it. But I will just quickly show you the is that okay, just scroll through the page. So this is the MTV UK page. As you can see, I don't know, 80% or 70% of the site contains of listings, all kinds of different style of listings, because the content was the king in this case, and everything is built around the content to serve more content. So this is an article page. Here we have some lazy loaded ads. Here we have embedded galleries. Here we have some style landing pages, single video page, and yeah, based on Google Analytics statistics, the site well over a year ago crossed the 50% mobile usage. So basically, from project owner's perspective, the most important key aspect was to get the experience right for the mobile, get the experience right for the mobile user. And so we mainly worked on that and polished that. So here's some Taylor Swift. Here's the the video playlist I already showed in the demo. Here are some network issues, but I think you saw it already there. So, yeah, thank you. Is there any questions about the process, about... I'm a really specifically front-end developer. This session was meant to be together with Mario, which is my colleague from Helsinki, and he's a back-end developer, and we wanted to kind of combine these back-end and front-end things, but I felt really comfortable about talking about the front-end part, so that's why the session is called Front-End Challenges. But Mario couldn't make it today, and but yeah, hello Mario. It was great to have you on the team, and yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so I was wondering, as you said, there were 2 front-end developers throughout the project, and I personally see difficulties, let's say, with dividing the front-end work between multiple people with this kind of projects, similar kinds of projects.
Yeah.
How was the work distributed between the 2 people?
Mm-hmm.
Was there like one had more responsibility, or was it more equal?
That's a good question. Actually, my previous 2 projects was projects where we were 2 front-end developers. So this wasn't a drastic change for me. Prior to that, yes, I was working basically as a single front-end themer, basically. So how does in this case, in MTV case, it was so that until the part of where the MTV UK theme started to be developed, it was basically only me doing the coding work, and the other front-end developer, which was from the client side, it wasn't from Wunderkraut side, and it was basically a consulting work with him, like choosing the right methodology, like discussing this theme structure, kind of getting some answers about the infrastructure. So it really helped that he was there, because the site contains a lot of kind of advertisement integrations, all kinds of integrations that I needed some answers to continue moving. So until the MTV theme started to until we decided on the whole structure about the grid and everything, it was basically me doing the coding, and he had other responsibilities, but he was deeply, really involved in the decisions that were made here. And then when we started to build out the MTV sub-theme, which is the MTV UK, and apply the branding and the styles, yes, then he joined, and we basically, the component approach helped, because then we could say, okay, today I will go and work on, this week basically, I will work on the media gallery for the embedded media, right? And I will be just working with that component, and he can work with other components. And he was actually the decision maker, because he came from the client side, and I think we worked really well together,
yeah, well, that was basically the way for this project. Yeah, so
again, the component approach helps. So you really divide the page. You don't say, let's theme the news page, because actually until like a couple of weeks until the launch, I didn't see the full site. Like the site was built by the site builders, and they changed the site all the time. And they erased issues, and we just fixed them. And just a couple of weeks before the launch of the MTV UK, the whole pages were actually built out, and all the components were there. And there's a lot of things and iterations we went through there. Yeah, sorry. Okay, thank you.